in young trainer Teddy Atlas, who follows in the footsteps of Emmanuel Stewart and Lou Duva and George Benton as the latest to try to guide the admittedly headstrong champion. Teddy Atlas, the star of Moorer Holyfield.
This is for the championship of the world. Give them out, big Mo. Mo! Hey, start doing what we trained to do. Otherwise, don't come back to this fucking order. Do you hear me? You're blowing it. You're blowing it. And it comes a time in a man's life, and he makes a decision to just live, survive, or he wants to win. You're lying to yourself, and I'd lie to you if I let you get away with that. And new heavyweight champion of the world.
Some people thought it was disrespectful to me or that he had no business saying things like that, but they didn't understand the relationship that Teddy and I have.
I want to be a guy who comes as close to being as important as the fighter as possible, where it meant more than just being a guy who was just there with him.
He's not going to be here for no free ride. He's not going to pamper anybody. He's here to do a job.
I wanted to get an understanding of Michael early on. People told me he would bolt training, sometimes refuse to spar.
The smallest thing would probably piss me off, no problem.
People would say that he was a little nutty, quite honestly. And I said, well, maybe we don't have a nut here. We have a guy pretty normal. Why should we take for granted he's sure of himself just because he's a tremendous puncher? There's a lot of pressure in that arena that fighters go into. They got to go in there naked and face another man. It's a very hard thing to do. And they try to grab for as much strength as they can. And if they think the person around them is strong, it helps a little bit.
Teddy's not going to let you just try and be lazy and just slide on by and not do anything, because he's going to be on your ass 24/7 automatically, because that's his job.
I was brought up in a young age as a trainer, a custom model. Even though he BS'd me a lot to keep me going, working for free, he would tell me, you're going to have the heavyweight champ of the world.
And suddenly I discovered he had a real talent for teaching. The fellow was a born teacher. And he's the type of person that wants to help people, especially kids. And they come to depend on him, rely on him a great deal.
I was a person who had no direction. I was involved in a lot of things that weren't responsible. Yeah, I was in Rikers twice, once for fighting. And then before that, I was involved in a robbery with a gun. I wasn't really a bad kid, but I was involved in these things. I realize now it was probably to get my father's attention. My father was a doctor. He was probably the only professional man I ever knew. He passed away when he was 88. He made it possible for me to stay in Catskill. How many guys pursue being a trainer? He didn't complain about it. I wasn't getting paid. He never once made me feel small. I mean, he supported me in Customado's house up there all those years. It helped me. It kept me in a direction of responsibility long enough that when it was over, I was on my way to not needing help anymore. When we won the heavyweight title, in some way, I know that my father would have been happy. I validated all the things I did when I didn't make money. And I was glad I got rid of Tyson. You know, I was known and I was associated and attached to being Mike Tyson's first trainer. The hell with that. I got my own world champion.
Back live at ringside in the MGM Grand Garden in Las Vegas, coming up in a matter of minutes, 45-year-old George Foreman's challenge to 26-year-old Michael Moorer for the WBA and IBF heavyweight championships of the world. The WBA tried to block this fight. It took a successful trip to court on the part of George Foreman to ensure himself the chance to again challenge for the heavyweight championship. And Larry Merchant, the criticism of the fight is that with no victories in the ring since January of 1993, Foreman has not legitimately earned a shot at the title. Your thoughts?
Well, there are a lot of skeptics out there who think that George now is more King Khan than King Kong. And George is just flattered by those words. George understands that the biggest Khan of all It's to con people who know they're being conned and love the con. But George hasn't earned this championship shot as a fighter. He hasn't fought in a year and a half, and on that inauspicious occasion, he lost to Tommy Morrison. Doesn't set a good precedent for future challengers in any division. On the other hand, George is a star, and stardom, like age, has its privileges. There are many, many champions and very, very few stars. That's why he's here. The thing I've been curious about, Jim, is that all week, out of the blue, he's been wearing neckties. I've been trying to figure it out. Is he coming here for a retirement party or some kind of a corporate takeover? We'll find out, but they have been power ties.
Or does he want to be the next Texan to run for the presidency of the United States? Well, we'll wait and see. George's star power, once again underlined, we point out, by those who are betting heavily in the sports books here in Las Vegas that he's going to score a knockout victory over Michael Moore. In fact, conventional wisdom, Gil, is that George can only win via the heavy knockout punch. Do you agree, or do you see some other scenario by which he could win?
No, I don't agree. George is not a one-punch knocker-outer. That is a word, knocker-outer, Jim?
I think it is. We just made it up.
Yeah, well, in the Morrison fight, George could see the openings, but the brain couldn't get the message to the hands fast enough. He just couldn't get off. But he doesn't knock you out with one punch. He really clubs you to death, and that's what he's going to have to do with the fighter he's fighting. He's going to have to punch and try to club him and just keep beating him. But I don't think that's going to happen.
So you see no chance that George can win the fight?
Very little.
Very little. Well, that's not the way people are believing here in the House, where thousands upon thousands are rooting for George Foreman to pull yet another miracle. They're voting yes on the fight here. Many of you are voting yes on this fight at home by simple virtue of the fact that you're watching it.
In there. Just spit it right in there. Don't worry about it. Up your hands. Be sharp. Change your angle. Give him that, hey, come on. That snap your punch.
So you saw the